Week 1. Raw. The Raw, after the horrific events that unfolded with Rollins and Renee Paquette, casts a heavy shadow over the entire show. The arena is steeped in a somber mood, the crowd a mixture of anger, grief, and a chilling sense of unease. We cut to a black and white vignette recapping the brutality inflicted on Renee by Rollins. Raw commentary remains silent throughout the clip, letting the disturbing visuals speak for themselves. Once the clip ends, a visibly shaken Kayla Braxton stands in the ring. She addresses the audience, her voice choked with emotion. A moment of silence is held, the crowd responding with a mix of stunned silence and mournful chants for Renee. Later backstage, a crazed and enraged Moxley is shown shouting demands for answers at security personnel. He desperately searches for Rollins, vowing vengeance. Security tries to restrain him, but he overpowers them. John Cena and other wrestlers attempt to calm him down, but his rage is uncontrollable. Later in the show, Ryoichi is shown backstage, pacing anxiously. He's focused on finding Ryoichi. He finally spots him in a quiet corner of the backstage area, practicing striking combinations against a padded wall. Ryoichi approaches cautiously. "Kuroishi," he begins, his voice low and sincere. "Don't you see what happened to Moxley's wife last week? This is exactly what I was talking about. Seth, he doesn't stop. He won't stop until he destroys everything we care about. We need to stop him, Kuroishi, before he comes after our loved ones next. We're the only ones who can. We were a team, a brotherhood. We were unstoppable. We can be again." Kuroishi finally turns, his expression cold and distant. "You left me, Ryoichi. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You chose them over me." "That's not true," Ryoichi pleads. "I was manipulated. I was played, just like you were. Seth and Zara, they orchestrated everything. They wanted to divide us. They knew that together, we were a threat to their control." Kuroishi stares at Ryoichi for a long moment, his eyes filled with suspicion. "You didn't care about Moxley or Renee or anybody but yourself. The only reason you're after Rollins now is to cover your own ass, to save your messianic empire." He then turns and walks away, leaving Ryoichi standing alone. Meanwhile, Moxley's rampage continues backstage. He's practically tearing the place apart, flipping over tables, throwing chairs, and shouting Rollins' name. He bursts into a locker room, only to find it empty. He kicks a locker door in frustration, leaving a large dent in the metal. He finally stumbles upon Zara Piper, who is standing calmly in a hallway, a sinister smile on her face. Moxley's rage boils over. He grabs Zara by the throat, pinning her against the wall. "Where is he?" he snarls, his voice filled with fury. "Where's Rollins?" Zara laughs, a chilling sound that echoes through the hallway. "He's where he needs to be," she says, her voice calm and composed despite Moxley's grip, preparing for what's to come. Just as Moxley is about to tighten his grip, Tyler Sandslayer appears, pulling him away from Zara. "Moxley, stop!" he shouts. "This isn't the way. Don't stoop to their level." Moxley shoves Sandslayer away, his eyes filled with a burning desire for revenge. "I don't care about levels," he roars. "I want him. I want Rollins. I'm going to make him pay for what he did." Zara uses the opportunity to retreat, and the Messianic Paradigm, Kyrie, Sami Zayn, Ariel Jordan, Painkiller, and Lorenzo Ross, quickly surrounds her, forming a protective barrier. Sandslayer looks at the sheer number of them, realizing they're outnumbered and outmatched. He knows they can't take on Rollins, Zara, and their group alone. Seeing the futility of his solo attempt, Sandslayer looks around desperately. His eyes land on Ryoichi, who is watching the scene from a distance. Sandslayer approaches him, his expression serious. "Ryoichi," he says, his voice urgent. "We need to talk." He explains the situation, telling Ryoichi that they need to work together if they want to stand a chance against Rollins and his faction. He mentions that Moxley is beyond reason, driven purely by vengeance. He needs someone level-headed to help strategize and lead the charge. Ryoichi looks at Sandslayer, then at the messianic paradigm surrounding Zara, and finally back at the direction Kuroishi walked off in. He nods slowly. "You can't save the world alone," Ryoichi breathes. Week 1, SmackDown. On SmackDown, Ryoichi and Tyler Sandslayer arrive at the arena, but the tension is evident as the SmackDown roster watches their every move. They are shown walking through the backstage area, clearly on a mission. They eventually arrive at Kazuchika Okada's locker room and knock on the door. Okada opens the door, looking surprised to see them. Ryoichi explains their situation, detailing the escalating conflict with Seth Rollins and the messianic paradigm. He emphasizes the need for allies and asks Okada to join their cause. Okada listens intently, considering their proposal. He acknowledges the threat that Rollins poses and the need to stop him. After a moment of contemplation, Okada agrees to join their alliance, solidifying their growing force. Meanwhile, in a separate part of the arena, Aaron Snyder is shown in a tense meeting with the members of Scarface Enterprises. They are discussing the recent events involving Seth Rollins and the attack on Renee Paquette, expressing their concern about Rollins' increasingly erratic behavior. They discuss possible strategies to take him down, but they are struggling to find a solution. Swerve Strickland then offers a suggestion. He proposes that they join forces with Ryoichi and Sandslayer. He argues that combining their resources and manpower is their best chance of defeating Rollins. Aaron is initially resistant to the idea, distrustful of Ryoichi's motives. However, after further deliberation and persuasion from Swerve and other members of the group, Aaron reluctantly agrees, recognizing the strategic advantage of such an alliance. He makes it clear, however, that he doesn't trust Ryoichi and will be keeping a close eye on him. Later in the show, a backstage segment shows Aaron Snyder meeting with Ryoichi, Tyler Sandslayer, and Kazuchika Okada. The atmosphere is tense, particularly between Aaron and Okada, given their history from Backlash. Aaron explains his decision to join their alliance, assuring them that Scarface Enterprises will provide their full support. He emphasizes that their common enemy is Seth Rollins, and that they must work together to defeat him. Ryoichi acknowledges Aaron's offer and thanks him for his support. He then attempts to ease the tension between Aaron and Okada, suggesting that they shake hands as a sign of their newfound alliance. After a moment of hesitation, both men reluctantly shake hands, though the tension between them is still there. Later in the night, we are treated to Kazuchika Okada defending his light heavyweight championship against Eddie Edwards. The match is a high-octane affair. Okada picks up the win. However, the celebration is interrupted when Seth Rollins appears, attacking Okada. The crowd erupts in boos as Rollins delivers a brutal beatdown to the champion. Tyler Sandslayer and Jon Moxley quickly rush to Okada's aid, attacking Rollins and driving him out of the ring. A brawl ensues between the three men. Just as Sandslayer and Moxley begin to gain the upper hand on Rollins, the Messianic Paradigm, Kyrie, Sami Zayn, Ariel Jordan, Painkiller, and Lorenzo Ross, appears, flanking Ryoichi and Aaron, who had come to back up their allies. In the ring, Moxley and Sandslayer get the upper hand on Rollins. Suddenly, Roman Reigns' music hits, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Reigns storms to the ring and delivers a devastating spear to Sandslayer, followed by a Superman punch to Moxley. What the hell? Rollins and Reigns then proceed to deliver a brutal beatdown to the fallen Sandslayer and Moxley, making Ryoichi, Okada, and a furious Aaron Snyder watch from ringside, unable to intervene due to the overwhelming numbers of the Messianic Paradigm. Reigns and Rollins stand side by side, triumphantly. Roman Reigns has chosen the side of Seth Rollins in this war for the soul of WWE. Week 2, Raw. Jon Moxley is in the ring, launching a profanity-laced tirade against Rollins and especially Roman Reigns. He calls Reigns a snake, a coward, a lapdog. Zara Piper appears on the Titantron, laughing mockingly at Moxley. She tells him that Rollins and Reigns are not interested in wasting their time on him. She says that they have bigger plans and that Moxley is nothing more than a minor annoyance. She then directs her attention to Ryoichi, calling him a fool for thinking he could stand against them. She warns that anyone who allies with him will suffer the same fate as Renee. Later in the show, a backstage segment shows Ryoichi and Tyler Sandslayer strategizing. They discuss the events of SmackDown and the unexpected alliance between Rollins and Reigns. They realize that they are facing a formidable force and that they need to strengthen their own alliance. Sandslayer expresses concern about Moxley's reckless behavior, worrying that his thirst for revenge will jeopardize their plans. Ryoichi assures him that they will find a way to control Moxley's rage and use it to their advantage. Another backstage segment shows Aaron Snyder meeting with Swerve Strickland and other members of Scarface Enterprises. Aaron is visibly angry about the attack on SmackDown, feeling that they were humiliated by Rollins and Reigns. He questions whether their alliance with Ryoichi is worth it. Swerve tries to calm him down, reminding him that they are in this together and that they will have their revenge. He suggests that they need to be patient and wait for the right opportunity to strike. Later in the night, a six-man tag team match, Ryoichi, Tyler Sandslayer, and Jon Moxley versus Painkiller, Sami Zayn, and Lorenzo Ross of the Messianic Paradigm. The match is a chaotic brawl from the start, with both teams unleashing their fury on each other. Moxley is particularly aggressive, targeting Zayn and Ross with a relentless assault. Ryoichi and Sandslayer work together effectively. The match reaches its climax when Moxley manages to isolate Sami Zayn in the ring. He hits Zayn with a series of devastating moves and sets him up for his finisher. However, before he can deliver the final blow, the lights in the arena suddenly go out. When the lights come back on, Aya is seen perched high in the rafters, a crossbow in her hands. The crowd gasps as she takes aim at Seth Rollins, who is standing at ringside. She fires an arrow, narrowly missing Rollins, who dives out of the way. The arrow strikes a nearby lighting rig, causing sparks to fly. Aya then drops down from the rafters, landing gracefully in the ring. She immediately joins the fight, targeting Rollins with a series of swift and precise strikes. The crowd erupts as Aya joins Ryoichi, Sandslayer, and Moxley, evening the odds against the Messianic Paradigm and their leaders, Rollins and Reigns. All-out war breaks out in the ring and at ringside as we fade away. Week 2, SmackDown. The battle lines are drawn in an epic opening video package. Ryoichi, Aaron Snyder, Kazuchika Okada, Tyler Sandslayer, Jon Moxley, Aya versus Seth Rollins, Painkiller, Kairi, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Lorenzo Ross. Roman Reigns is shown standing alongside Seth Rollins, Zara Piper, and the rest of the Messianic Paradigm. Reigns addresses the camera, his voice cold and calculating. He acknowledges the growing alliance against them, but dismisses them as insignificant. He declares that he and Rollins are the future of WWE, and that anyone who stands in their way will be crushed. Rollins adds that they are not just a team, they are a movement, a force that cannot be stopped. Zara smiles sinisterly, adding that their enemies have made a grave mistake by challenging them. The segment ends with a shot of Rollins and Reigns standing side by side, their expressions menacing. Another backstage segment shows Jon Moxley pacing angrily backstage. He is approached by Aya, who tries to calm him down. She understands his anger, but urges him to focus on the bigger picture. She reminds him that they need to work together as a team if they want to defeat Rollins and Reigns. Moxley reluctantly agrees, acknowledging that he needs to control his rage. Until Survivor Series. Week 3, Raw. On Raw, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns holding court in the ring, surrounded by the Messianic Paradigm. Rollins is particularly unhinged, ranting about how he's systematically destroying everyone who opposes him. Reigns stands stoically beside him, nodding in approval as Rollins details their dominance. Ryoichi's alliance makes their entrance. Himself, Tyler Sandslayer, Jon Moxley, and Aya. They're quickly joined by Aaron Snyder and members of Scarface Enterprises. The two factions square off, the tension electric. Before anyone can make a move, Zara Piper grabs a microphone. "You really thought you could stop us?" she sneers. "Look around. We have the two most dominant forces in WWE history standing together. You're nothing but a collection of broken toys." The words trigger Moxley, who charges the ring. All hell breaks loose as both sides collide in a massive brawl. Despite the numbers being relatively even, the messianic paradigm starts to gain the upper hand. Reigns and Rollins work in terrifying tandem, systematically dismantling their opponents. Ryoichi finds himself isolated in a corner, surrounded by Rollins, Reigns, and several paradigm members. The beatdown is brutal, with Rollins particularly savage in his assault. Through swollen eyes, Ryoichi spots Kuroishi watching from the entrance ramp, his expression unreadable. "Kuroishi!" Ryoichi calls out between blows. Rollins laughs maniacally, stomping on Ryoichi. "Your old friend isn't coming to save you. He knows you're pathetic. He knows you deserve this." The camera cuts to Kuroishi, still watching. His fists clench as he sees Rollins grab a steel chair. In rapid succession, Rollins brings the chair down on Ryoichi's back, each impact echoing through the arena. The crowd chants "Kuroishi" as Ryoichi refuses to stay down, taking shot after shot. Finally, as Rollins raises the chair for what looks like a finishing blow, the lights in the arena flicker. When they stabilize, Kuroishi is in the ring. The crowd erupts as he catches the chair mid-swing, ripping it from Rollins' hands. What follows is an explosive display of striking combinations, as Kuroishi unleashes months of pent-up fury on the messianic paradigm. The tide turns immediately. Kuroishi and Ryoichi fall into their old rhythm, working together as if they'd never been apart. The rest of their alliance rallies, driving Rollins, Reigns, and their followers from the ring. The screen fades with Kuroishi and Ryoichi standing side by side, their brotherhood restored, as their full alliance poses in the ring. Week 3, SmackDown. The show opens with Aaron Snyder in the ring, mic in hand. The usually composed leader of Scarface Enterprises is visibly seething. He calls out Seth Rollins, reminding everyone that before all this, before the messianic paradigm, before the attack on Renee, before aligning with Roman Reigns, he buried Rollins 6 feet under. And tonight, he wants to finish the job. Shiloh appears on the Titantron instead, mocking Aaron's challenge. She reminds him how Rollins had Scarface Enterprises on their knees. "You're just repeating history," she sneers. "But if you want to face Seth tonight, you've got it." Backstage, we see Ryoichi and Kuroishi attempting to rebuild their partnership. The tension is still evident, but there's a shared understanding that they need to work together. They're interrupted by Tyler Sandslayer, who warns them that the messianic paradigm is planning something big for tonight. In the first match of the night, Aya faces off against Kairi. The match is a technical masterpiece, with both women pushing each other to their limits. Just as Aya seems to have the upper hand, Lorenzo Ross and Painkiller appear at ringside. This brings out Moxley and Sandslayer, leading to chaos around the ring. Kairi takes advantage of the distraction to steal a victory over Aya. Following the match, a frustrated Moxley attacks both Ross and Painkiller, leading to a wild brawl through the crowd. Security tries to contain the situation, but fails as more members from both factions join the fray. The brawl eventually spills into the parking lot, where Kazuchika Okada arrives just in time to help even the odds. Midway through the show, Roman Reigns is shown in a private locker room with Rollins and Zara. They're discussing strategy for tonight's main event, with Reigns promising to ensure Rollins' victory. Their conversation is interrupted by Kuroishi, who silently observes them from the doorway before walking away, leaving an unsettled atmosphere. Later, Sami Zayn faces Kazuchika Okada in a singles match. The match showcases Okada's technical prowess against Zayn's newfound aggressive style under the messianic paradigm's influence. Just as Okada sets up for the Rainmaker, the lights go out. When they return, the ring is surrounded by the entire Messianic paradigm. However, Ryoichi's Messianic empire quickly evens the odds, leading to another massive brawl. The next match pits Aaron Snyder against Seth Rollins in a brutal personal contest. The match is incredibly physical from the start, with both men throwing everything they have at each other. Rollins targets Aaron's previously injured knee and ankle, while Aaron focuses on Rollins' midsection. The match reaches a fever pitch when Roman Reigns attempts to interfere, only to be cut off by Ryoichi and Kuroishi. This leads to a massive brawl at ringside involving all members of both factions. In the chaos, Zara tries to hand Rollins a weapon, but Aya intercepts her with a diving crossbody from the top rope. The climactic moment comes when Aaron counters Rollins' curb stomp into his signature submission hold. The Messianic paradigm tries to break it up, causing a no contest, but Ryoichi's alliance fights them off. Rollins eventually escapes, leading to a tense standoff between both factions. A final shot shows Moxley breaking away from his allies, charging up the ramp after Rollins, having to be restrained by multiple security guards and his own teammates. The last image is of Rollins laughing maniacally at Moxley's rage while Reigns stands stoically beside him. Week 4, Raw. On Raw, Seth Rollins was already in the ring, sitting cross-legged in the center. His expression is eerily calm as he begins to speak, addressing Kuroishi directly. He talks about manipulation, about how easy it is to break someone's spirit. He reveals that everything, from splitting up Kuroishi and Ryoichi to the attack on Renee, was calculated. "I needed to show everyone how fragile their bonds really are," he says, a disturbing smile playing across his face. The arena goes dark. When the lights return, Kuroishi stands at the top of the entrance ramp, Ryoichi beside him. They walk to the ring together, neither rushing nor hesitating. Rollins doesn't move from his seated position, even as they enter the ring. Kuroishi takes a microphone, his voice carrying years of pain and anger. "You didn't break our bond," he says. "You just made me realize how strong it was." He talks about watching from the shadows, seeing everything unfold, how he wanted to hate Ryoichi, but couldn't ignore the truth anymore when he saw what Rollins did to Renee. Ryoichi steps forward, addressing Rollins directly. He speaks about redemption, about how sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what matters. "You thought you could use our past against us," he says, "but our past is what makes us stronger than you'll ever be." Rollins finally stands, laughing maniacally. He circles them like a predator, microphone in hand. "Strong? You want to talk about strength?" His voice rises to a shout. "Strength is having the courage to destroy everything in your path. Strength is—" Kuroishi cuts him off. "Strength is standing beside your brother when the world turns dark, something you'll never understand." The tension builds as Roman Reigns' music hits. He appears on the stage with the rest of the Messianic paradigm. They begin to surround the ring as Rollins continues to laugh. Suddenly, Jon Moxley's music hits. He charges through the crowd, followed by Tyler Sandslayer and Aya. The Messianic Empire isn't far behind, with Aaron Snyder and Kazuchika Okada joining the fray. The ring erupts into chaos as both factions collide. In the midst of the brawl, Rollins manages to isolate Kuroishi, attempting to hit him with a steel chair. Ryoichi sees this and pushes his friend out of the way, taking the brutal shot to the back. The sight of Ryoichi sacrificing himself for him snaps something in Kuroishi. He unleashes a furious combination of strikes on Rollins, driving him back into the corner. Rollins laughs as he begs Kuroishi to hit him, reminding him that his anger is permanent. Kuroishi stops himself, and that moment of hesitation allows Rollins to lay him out. The brawl continues, ending in an abrupt cut to commercial. It's official. At Survivor Series, it's Ryoichi, Aaron Snyder, Kuroishi, Kazuchika Okada, Tyler Sandslayer, Jon Moxley, Aya vs. Seth Rollins, Painkiller, Kyrie, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns, Lorenzo Ross. Week 4, SmackDown. On SmackDown, Aaron Snyder, pacing in his locker room, studying footage of Rollins' previous attacks with intense focus. Swerve Strickland enters, concerned about Aaron's state of mind. "You need to stay focused," Swerve warns. "Rollins is trying to get in your head." Aaron's eyes remain fixed on the screen. "He's not in my head," he responds coldly. "I'm in his." Before Swerve can respond, the TV feed in the locker room cuts to static before showing Seth Rollins sitting in a darkened room. His face is partially obscured, but his unsettling laugh fills the room. "Aaron! Aaron! Aaron!" Rollins taunts, his voice carrying an eerie calmness. "Still studying tape? Still trying to figure out where you went wrong? Let me save you some time. You were wrong the moment you thought you could bury me. The moment you believed you could stop what I've become." Aaron storms out of his locker room, pushing past several wrestlers and officials. He marches straight to the ring, grabbing a microphone on his way. "Rollins!" he shouts, his voice echoing through the arena. "Enough games, enough running, enough hiding behind Roman Reigns and your little cult. Face me, right now." The lights in the arena dim, and Rollins appears on the Titantron again. "You want to face me? Right now?" He laughs manically. "Oh, Aaron, you still don't get it, do you? This isn't about facing me. This is about breaking you, just like I broke Moxley's wife. Just like I broke Ryoichi and Kuroishi's brotherhood. Just like I'll break everything you hold dear. You hurt my daughter, Aaron. Shiloh, what did she ever do to you? A woman just doing her job. You channeled your hatred through me and put it into torturing her. Yet, I'm the bad guy?" Rollins steps out from the shadows, that disturbing smile still plastered across his face. "See, Aaron, this is what happens when you try to play the hero, when you try to stand against the inevitable." Aaron charges at Rollins, but Roman Reigns emerges from behind, catching him with a devastating spear. The messianic paradigm surrounds Aaron as Rollins kneels beside him. "At Survivor Series," Rollins whispers, his face inches from Aaron's. "I'm not just going to beat you. I'm going to make you watch as I destroy everything. And the best part? Deep down, you know you can't stop me." The beatdown continues until Ryoichi, Kuroshi, and the rest of their alliance make the save, driving back the messianic paradigm. As medical staff tends to the members of Scarface Enterprises, Aaron sits up, blood trickling from his mouth, his eyes fixed on Rollins' retreating figure. "You're wrong," Aaron calls out, his voice hoarse but determined. "At Survivor Series, I'm going to remind you why I buried you in the first place, and this time, you're not coming back."